There's this incredible piece of ancient wisdom that says man is the most vivid entity and also the most difficult puzzle to solve. And honestly, that just sets the perfect stage for what we're about to get into, the unbelievably complex art of leadership.
So today, we're going to unlock some timeless leadership secrets from the Vietnamese classic Tuất Sự Thể, which basically means the art of dealing with people. We're going to see how these lessons from emperors, from generals, and even from old factory floors can totally transform how you lead right now.
Here's how we're going to break this journey down. We're going to move in 4 parts, starting from the inside and working our way out, from mastering your own mind to navigating the super complex world of other people. All right, let's dive in. First up, the foundation, mastering your inner world. Because here's the thing, truly great leadership, it isn't about telling other people what to do. It all starts with commanding yourself. The book tells this really powerful story about a leader who's working late one night, and suddenly the power in the building gets cut. He's furious, right? So he storms down to the basement, ready to just unleash all his anger on the building manager. But when he gets there, the manager just gives him this calm, almost mocking smile. And in that one moment, the leader gets it. His own lack of control was his biggest weakness. He hadn't been defeated by the manager, no, he'd been defeated by his own temper.
Now this quote, this gets to the very core of what real self-respect is. When he was in his later years, Winston Churchill overheard 2 officials whispering that he was getting old and that he should probably step down. After the ceremony, he just calmly turned to them and said, "Gentlemen, they also say that he is deaf." He used this incredible wit not just to put them in their place, but to show them that his strength, his self-worth, it was built on his own standards, not on their opinions.
Okay, so that inner foundation is what lets a leader build outward. And that brings us right to our second section, the art of influence, where you start to really effectively shape the world around you.
So, here's a classic leadership problem, and the book presents just a brilliant case study. There's this manager named Menschel who takes over a steel mill where the workers are totally unmotivated and production is just awful. Threats, pep talks, nothing had worked. So what did he do? He didn't give some big speech, he didn't offer a bonus, nope. He just walked up to the day shift and asked how many batches of steel they'd made. 6, they told him. So he grabbed a piece of chalk, drew a huge number 6 on the floor, and just walked away. It was a simple, silent challenge.
And the result? Oh, it was brilliant. The night shift comes in, they see the 6, and they ask what it means. Well, they were determined to do better, so they cranked out 7 batches and proudly replaced the 6 with a 7. When the day shift came back and saw that 7, they got so fired up that they produced a massive 10 by the end of their shift. You see, motivation isn't always about pushing people. Sometimes it's about creating a pull.
But influence can also be about strategic generosity. I mean, look at Dwight Eisenhower. He commanded the entire Allied force in World War II, even though he had very little direct combat experience himself. His genius was in diplomacy. By willingly giving away prestigious commands to British officers, he didn't lose power. He actually gained the trust and the full cooperation of a vital ally, which just multiplied his overall influence.
But a leader's influence can't just stop with their immediate team. So in Section 3, the expansion, we're going to see just how important it is to build strategic relationships with your entire community. The book really stresses that your relationship with your surroundings is an investment, one with potentially endless benefits. This isn't just about good PR, it's about survival and growth. Let's look at 2 factories that learned this lesson in 2 very different ways. On one hand, you've got this Ohio ceramics factory that always treated its town with respect. Well, one day it burns to the ground, no insurance. And you know what happened? The townspeople, the workers, the shop owners, everybody, they volunteered their own time and their own money to rebuild it from the ashes. Then, on the other hand, you have a factory that was polluting the local environment. When people confronted the leaders, they did nothing. So the furious townspeople went out and destroyed the only road leading to the factory, forcing it to shut down forever. One was saved by its community, the other was destroyed by it.
And that brings us, finally, to the pinnacle, navigating conflict and competition. This is where leadership gets tested by its greatest challenges. We're talking rivals, and sometimes even your own superiors.
This next story of strategy is just wow. So, when Emperor Heinrich IV gets excommunicated by the Pope, all his nobles rebel. He's facing total ruin. So he does something nobody expected. He walks barefoot to the Pope's castle at Canossa and kneels in the snow for 3 straight days, begging for forgiveness. I mean, it looked like a complete and total surrender.
but it was a masterstroke. The Pope had to forgive him, which restored Heinrich's authority. He then went home, crushed all the rebellions, and years later marched on Rome and kicked out the very same Pope who had humiliated him. His public shame wasn't a defeat. It was a calculated step back to take a giant leap forward.
But what about when the conflict is with your own boss? Well, here the book offers a really chilling piece of advice with the story of Yang Shu, a brilliant advisor to the super-powerful warlord Cao Cao.
You see, Yang Shu was just too smart for his own good. He could figure out Cao Cao's most cryptic messages and predict his every single move. The problem was, he couldn't resist showing off just how clever he was. By constantly proving that he was a step ahead of his master, he made Cao Cao feel insecure, maybe even a little dumb. His intelligence became a threat, and for that, he was executed. The lesson is timeless. Make your boss shine. Don't outshine them. From self-control all the way to strategic retreat, these lessons show us that leadership is a journey, one that starts from within and then expands outward. So the final question is really for you. On this journey, where are you right now? Are you mastering your inner world, building influence with your team, or expanding your strategic relationships? Your next step is waiting.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into a really fascinating collection of strategic texts. They all focus on, well, the philosophy of success, leadership, and how you conduct yourself.
Yeah, and these sources, they kick off with a pretty bold statement.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
That social interaction, getting along with people, it's not just some soft skill.
Right.
It's the absolute foundation, the bedrock for getting ahead, for achieving anything significant.
Okay, so not optional.
Definitely not. And our mission today really is to unpack that, to give you almost an operating manual for treating relationships as, well, genuine strategy.
So moving beyond just, occasional networking.
Exactly. We're distilling actionable steps so you can become truly influential, well-connected. We're focusing on how reputation, how strong relationships, they don't just feel good. They actually become a tangible asset.
A tangible asset, like productivity.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The source is equated directly to productivity. It's that concrete.
Wow. And the sources really hammer home the importance of communication, don't they? They use some powerful analogies.
They do. It's not just talking. It's described as the ice pick you need to climb a mountain.
Okay.
Or the ship to cross the sea.
Right. Essential tools for difficult journeys.
And even the secret code that kind of records your success makes it real.
It really frames communication as critical for survival and progress.
And what's interesting is how they tie this to the modern economy.
How so?
Well, historically, maybe in a self-sufficient farming society, you could, arguably, find happiness kind of on your own.
Right, you grow your own food, build your own house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now, in our interconnected global commodity economy, the sources say success, even happiness, it's fundamentally impossible without really broad, really comprehensive connections.
So communication is the engine that builds and maintains all that.
It's essential. You can't function without it.
Okay, so let's dig into that central idea in Section 1, relationship mastery. The authors make this really bold equation. They say your network, your liu quan he, is literally your productivity, your success suit.
Yeah, it's not just like productivity. It is productivity. It's like capital you can deploy.
Capital in motion. That's a powerful way to think about it.
It really is. And yet, the sources point out this unfortunate truth.
Which is?
Most people only scramble to use this capital when they're already in a crisis.
Huh.
They treat it like an emergency fund they never actually top up.
That's the panic stage, right? Only looking for help when the house is on fire.
Exactly. And there's a great Chinese idiom they use for this.
Oh, yeah.
Not burning incense regularly, only embracing the Buddha's foot when trouble arises.
Huh. Okay, that paints a picture. Makes you think about your own approach.
It does.
So if the amateur waits for the crisis, what does the strategic leader do? How do they manage this relationship capital?
Well, they practice proactive relationship management. It's about, building goodwill consistently.
Meaning
Strategic, non-transactional gestures. Favors, maybe thoughtful gifts, that kind of thing. But crucially, doing it before there's any specific need.
you build the bridge when the sun is shining, basically.
Precisely. There's a really telling anecdote in the source material about a retired department director. It shows the stark difference between transactional and genuinely strategic relationships.
Okay, tell us about him.
So while this guy was in power, apparently his home was just piled high with gifts. Especially around the holidays, everyone wanted his favor.
Standard practice for someone in his position, I suppose.
Right. But the moment he retired, crickets. The gifts stopped. The calls stopped. Almost everyone vanished.
Wow. So those relationships were purely transactional, tied only to his position.
Completely. It shows how quickly that kind of connection evaporates when the power shifts. But
There's a but.
there is. Amidst all this silence, just one person came to visit him. A former subordinate he hadn't paid much attention to.
And the subordinate wanted something.
No, that's the key. He wasn't looking for anything. He just showed up, expressing genuine respect, genuine sentiment, loyalty, really, built when the director had nothing left to offer him transactionally.
Okay, so a real connection.
A real connection. And here's the payoff. Years later, that same subordinate gets promoted to a really senior role in a big company.
Right.
And what's one of the first things he does? He reaches out to the retired director and hires him as a consultant.
No kidding. So that one act of genuine loyalty, shown when it cost something and offered nothing immediate in return.
Exactly. It turned into long-term professional stability, income for the director and for the subordinate. He got a trusted, experienced advisor.
That's literally turning relationship sentiment into long-term productivity. Right there.
That's the definition. It's playing the long game, treating loyalty like a valuable asset.
Okay, so that's internal, personal networks. What about managing the external environment? Public relations, the community?
Yeah, the sources shift to that, using this brilliant kind of tragic contrast between two factories facing crises.
Right. The first one is the ceramics factory in Ohio.
Successful place, but then it burns down.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And adding insult to injury, the owner hadn't kept up the insurance.
Oh, wow. That sounds like game over for most businesses.
You'd think so. But incredibly, it was rebuilt quickly and into an even bigger, better facility.
How on earth did they manage that without insurance?
Good community relations. Simple as that. The owner had spent years building genuine goodwill, living by that old saying, better to buy close neighbors than distant brothers.
So the community actually stepped up.
Massively. They helped finance it, staff it, push the rebuild through. His PR essentially acted as his insurance policy.
That's incredible. But then there's the flip side, the carbide factory in Shaanxi, China.
Yeah, a real cautionary tale. This factory, it was making money, paying local taxes, seemed okay on the surface.
But
But its toxic emissions were destroying local farms, killing crops, livestock, a disaster for the community.
And the community complained.
They did. But when they realized the government wasn't going to act quickly enough, they took matters into their own hands.
What'd they do? Sue the factory?
Nope. Much more direct. They physically went out and destroyed the factory's only access road.
Wow. Just cut it off completely.
Instantly severed its supply lines, its distribution. The factory couldn't operate. It was forced to shut down permanently.
A brutal lesson.
Absolutely. You cannot build a future by destroying the community you operate in. Community relations aren't just a nice to have, some PR checkbox. They are fundamental,
Yeah.
essential for survival.
That leads us really nicely into section 2, which is all about mastering presentation, because it's not just what you do, it's how you appear, how you carry yourself.
Exactly. And the sources get surprisingly specific here, especially about the professional presentation of leaders, almost like a dress code.
Yeah, I noticed that, particularly the advice for female leaders.
It's quite direct. It discourages certain things in a professional setting, like really bright or heavily layered patterns, deep V-necks, clothes that are very tight-fitting.
That feels very prescriptive. What's the reasoning behind such specific rules? Is it just outdated thinking?
Well, the rationale given in the text is about minimizing distraction and maximizing perceived authority. The concern expressed is that if someone's appearance is too, let's say, loud or overly casual, it might cause others to subconsciously doubt their competence or their status.
So the idea is to have the appearance reinforce the position, the vitri, rather than detract from it.
That's the argument. It's about projecting unwavering professionalism. The recommendations are for neutral colors, navy, gray, black, and simple, elegant styles. Things that communicate competence without drawing too much personal attention.
Okay, so the image becomes a sort of silent signal of credibility.
That's the idea. And this focus on presentation, it goes beyond just clothes. It extends to social polish, those little details of etiquette.
Right, they get really granular, down to things like how you eat soup.
Yeah, the con, as they call it. The rule is clear. You eat it quietly. You definitely don't slurp it.
Okay, no slurping. What else?
Coffee or tea. Don't stir it more than, say, 2 or 3 times. Just a gentle mix.
It sounds almost trivial, but what's the deeper point?
It's about demonstrating self-control and attention to detail. These small, measured actions, eating quietly, read minimally, they signal discipline. If you manage the small things meticulously, the implication is you can handle the big things too.
I see. It's a subtle indicator of competence. And what about conversation?
The standard is high there too. Politeness, sincerity, as they call it, and it has to be genuine. Avoid invasive questions, definitely no gossip, and flattery only if it's truly earned and accurate. No empty compliments.
So projecting control, sincerity, and respect in all interactions.
That's the package. It's about ensuring your entire presentation aligns with the authority and competence you need to project. All right, let's shift gears now, go a bit deeper into the leader's mindset, the mental game, the strategy, because while looking the part is important.
It's not the whole picture.
Not at all. The sources really emphasize that true influence, real persuasion power, comes from something else. Emotional connection. Kinkam, they call it sentiment, deep emotion.
So using emotions strategically.
Yes, they argue it's the strongest weapon you have, even when dealing with really difficult people or impossible situations. More powerful than logic or force, often.
Okay, that sounds fascinating. There's a story that illustrates this, right? The magistrate, Mai Kong.
Yes, a classic example. Mai Kong has to help a nobleman collect a debt from a very poor man who simply can't pay.
So standard debt collection case.
You'd think. But instead of just ordering the seizure of assets or something, Mai Kong goes for a radical emotional play.
What does he do?
He doesn't threaten the debtor directly. Instead, he dramatically tells the poor man in front of the creditor, "Go home, sell your wife and child, bring the money tomorrow."
Wait, seriously? He told him to sell his family. That's intense. Was he actually going to make him do it?
No, that wasn't the point. It was a calculated performance. The real target of this command wasn't the poor debtor.
It was the creditor.
Exactly. Mai Kong knew the creditor was watching, listening. He wanted the creditor to witness the poor man's utter despair at the thought of selling his family. The whole scene was designed to evoke overwhelming pity in the creditor.
Wow, okay. And did it work?
Perfectly. The creditor, overcome with emotion, immediately stepped in and said, "No, forget the debt." He apparently even burned the loan contract right there.
Incredible. So Mai Kong achieved the goal, resolving the debt not through legal force, but through pure psychological, emotional leverage.
Precisely. It's brutal, maybe, by our standards, but it shows the power of understanding and manipulating sentiment to reach an objective indirectly.
It suggests that appealing to feeling can sometimes be far more effective than just relying on rules or logic.
It's a reminder that people are driven by emotion, and savvy leaders know how to channel that.
Okay, so from emotional strategy to motivation, the sources also talk about boosting ambition, right? Using competition.
Yes, absolutely. The Menschel Steel Factory example is a great illustration of this.
Tell us about that.
Production was lagging. The manager, Menschel, didn't give a big speech or threaten anyone. He just walked onto the factory floor with a piece of chalk
Okay.
and wrote the number of units the day shift had produced, which was 6 right there on the floor. And he just left.
A silent challenge.
Totally silent.
Yeah.
The night shift comes in. They see the 6-foot. They know exactly what it means. They erase it. And before they leave, they write 7.
Huh. Okay, the gauntlet is thrown down.
Then the day shift comes back, sees the 7, competitive spirit kicks in, they work like crazy, and by the end of their shift, they proudly write 10.
Fantastic. Just tapping into that basic human drive to compete, to excel, and it worked.
Dramatically boosted output, no meetings, no memos, just a simple, visible challenge, leveraging pride.
But it can't always be about competition and driving people like that, can it? There has to be humility, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The sources stress this. Sometimes leaders need to consciously reverse the roles, meaning actively going to a subordinate and asking them to teach you something. Approaching them with genuine humility, saying, "Hey, can you show me how you do this?"
Ah, I see. Instead of always being the expert, you become the student.
Exactly. And according to the text, this simple act does wonders. It builds trust immediately, dissolves that feeling of just being ordered around, and really ignites the subordinate sense of responsibility and enthusiasm. They feel valued.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the last strategy we need to touch on is maybe the most surprising one. The idea of strategic retreat.
Right. Tao didi tuat din len du dang hun. Appearing weak to advance more easily.
It sounds completely counterintuitive. Why would appearing weak help you advance?
It's the principle of Louis that team retreat to advance. Sometimes taking a step back, even seeming to surrender, is the smartest way to position yourself for a bigger win later.
Okay, I need an example for this one.
The classic historical example given is King Henry IV of the Holy Roman Empire. He was in deep trouble facing revolts at home, and he'd been excommunicated by Pope Gregory VII, which was a massive deal back then.
So politically and spiritually isolated.
Hugely. Now, the expected move might be to raise an army, fight back, but Henry did the opposite.
What did he do?
He undertook this incredibly arduous journey in the middle of winter, traveling hundreds of miles, dressed in rough penitent's clothing.
Like a beggar.
Essentially, yes. All the way to Canossa, where the Pope was staying. And he stood outside the castle gates, barefoot in the snow, for 3 days, begging for forgiveness.
Wow. That's a stunning public humiliation for an emperor.
Utterly humiliating. But it was strategically brilliant.
How so?
By humbling himself so publicly, he achieved several things. First, he got the Pope to lift the excommunication, restoring his spiritual legitimacy. Second, it completely undercut his political rivals back home, who were using his conflict with the church as a weapon against him. He basically pulled the rug out from under them.
So the apparent weakness was actually a move to consolidate power indirectly.
Exactly. Once his position was stabilized, spiritually and politically, he returned home, rallied his loyal supporters, and systematically crushed his enemies. The retreat set up a much stronger, more decisive advance later on.
Retreat to advance. Louis Dutton. Okay, I get it now. So let's try and pull all these threads together from our deep dive today. It feels like the core strategies fall into maybe 3 main pillars.
I think that's a good way to put it. What would you say they are?
Well, first, definitely that communication isn't just talking, it's your strategic destiny. It shapes everything.
Agreed. Pillar 1, communication as strategy.
Second, your outward presentation, your appearance, your etiquette. It has to be meticulously aligned with your authority. It's about credibility.
Pillar 2, conduct must match position.
And third, real leadership, especially in tough situations, it relies more on sophisticated emotional strategy and finesse than just brute force or logic.
Yes. Pillar 3, emotional intelligence and strategic thinking over simple coercion.
Does that sound right?
Perfectly summarized. And the thread tying all those pillars together, it's that central idea we started with.
That relationships are productivity.
Exactly. Success, according to these sources, it's maybe 30% technical skill, but a massive 70% comes down to mastering human relations. If you nail that 70%, you've essentially turned your social skills into tangible output.
Convert relationships into results.
Okay, now for a final thought to leave our listeners with, you mentioned earlier how appearing weak could be a strategy. But the sources take it even further, don't they? Leveraging an actual known personal flaw.
Oh, yeah. That's a fascinating, almost daring concept. They bring up General Zhang Fei from China's Three Kingdoms period.
Okay, who was he?
A famous warrior, but notorious for one major weakness. He loved to drink. And he often made serious mistakes when he was drunk. Everyone knew it.
Right, a well-known character flaw, not exactly something you'd want to advertise.
Normally, no. But in one crucial battle against his rival, General Zhang Fei, used this very reputation against him.
How did he do that? Weaponize his own weakness?
Yeah.
Well, knowing that Zhang he knew about his drinking problem, Zhang Fei deliberately staged a scene in his camp. Loud parties, soldiers pretending to be drunk and careless, basically making it look like his army was completely undisciplined because of his
He
drinking.
was putting on a show, baiting the trap.
Exactly. He was playing on Zhang, his perception of his weakness.
And Zhang, he bought it.
Hook, line, and sinker. Zhang, he saw the apparent chaos, thought, perfect opportunity. Zhang Fei's drunk again. He launched a surprise night attack, expecting an easy victory.
And walked right into
A perfectly prepared ambush. Zhang Fei wasn't drunk at all. His troops were ready. It was a crushing defeat for Zhang He, all because Zhang Fei turned his biggest known flaw into a brilliant tactical advantage.
That is next-level strategic thinking. Using your own perceived vulnerability as camouflage.
It really is. So the question we want to leave you, the listener, with is this. If even a genuine, serious personal flaw like Zhang Fei's drinking could be cleverly leveraged to misdirect an opponent and achieve a major victory,
then what intentional weakness or what carefully managed perception of a vulnerability could you perhaps cultivate or allow people to believe about you?
right? How could you use a controlled perception to misdirect competitors, to make them underestimate you, or to lead them down the wrong path while you pursue your actual goals?
It's a challenging thought. It implies that the strategic game isn't always about projecting strength.
Sometimes the most powerful move is skillfully controlling what your rivals think they know about your weaknesses. It's the ultimate strategic feint, something to definitely mull over.